El Salvador is trying to experiment with it, but that's one little country. You can't say that that's some kind of wave of countries making Bitcoin legal tender. Is Wall Street in it a little bit? Sure, because Wall Street thinks they can make a buck on it. I mean, they don't give a damn. And most of these big investment banks that are allowing their customers to trade, they don't trade it themselves. I mean, they're just trying to make a buck. They're operating the casino, and if people want to gamble, they're like, well, and if people want to gamble, they're like, well, we're going to let them gamble at our casino because they may gamble at someplace else. What I will concede is that there are a lot of people that are gambling on cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin being one, but there's almost 18,000 others if you count all the altcoins, and then you can throw in all the NFTs. But what Bitcoin and other digital assets are used for is gambling. People buy them because they think the price is going to go up. People don't sell them because they think the price is going to go up. So it's all a bunch of trading. It's not being adopted for anything. That's all pie in the sky hype to try to justify the appreciation that all the pumpers are claiming is coming. And that's why people are buying it and holding on to it. Or in the case of Hex, they're getting paid to hold it and penalized if they sell it. As far as regrets, do I regret not buying it? Well, look, obviously, I'm not an idiot. I mean, there are a lot of things with the benefit of hindsight. You can look back now that you know everything that happened and say, well, I could have bought this and made all this money. Of course, I could have bought Bitcoin when I first learned about it. I don't even remember where it was. I'm pretty sure it was below 10 bucks. I don't think it was below $1, but who the hell knows? It was so long ago, it's hard for me to remember. But all the problems that I had with Bitcoin when I first noticed it, I think are all valid. I mean, in fact, one of the things I didn't like about it, I said, well, what stops somebody from coming up with another cryptocurrency? And of course, nothing. And that was part of the problem. I didn't see any real scarcity in an asset that had no intrinsic value and anybody could replicate. I also didn't think it was particularly scarce just because there was 21 million of them. 21 million is simply an arbitrary number of Satoshis. There's 100 million Satoshis in each one. And I know people say, well, but you can break a gold down into little tiny grams, and that's true, but they're no good to you. I mean, if you want to make a watch, you need a certain amount of gold. A little speck isn't going to do anything. But as far as Bitcoin, whatever I can do with a Satoshi, I can do with 100 Satoshis or a million, because I can't do anything with one, so I can't do anything with a million. So I never bought that there was any real value. What I missed was that this would become like tulip mania, that this would actually catch on and become a massive speculative mania. I did not have the foresight when Bitcoin was, 10 bucks to see this happening. But when it did get up to 1,000 and then it pulled back for 200 or 300, I looked at it for a while and I thought, should I buy this crap? It may have a big run. I could see all the hype and all the nonsense that people were saying about it. And a lot of people were actually believing it. But then fundamentally, I still couldn't get it. And I knew that I could never advise other people to buy it. That's what a lot of people do in crypto. It's all pump and dump. You just get in it, and then you pay celebrities to promote it. You give away free coins. Hey, pretend you want your salary in Bitcoin. It's all hype, because the only money that is made in crypto is the money that's lost. Somebody has to lose money for somebody else to make it. It's a zero-sum game. In fact, it's a negative-sum game when you figure out all the other costs, the trading costs, the marketing costs. Think about all the money that was spent last year advertising Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. They spent a fortune pumping it up, yet everybody who bought is way down. I mean, the market's been killed despite record amounts of publicity and advertisement for Bitcoin. Now, so do I regret not taking advantage of other people's greed and ignorance? Yes, I could have made a lot of money had I bought some Bitcoin and sold it. I have no idea where I would have sold it. Had I bought some years ago, you don't know, would I have still held it? If I bought it at 10 bucks or 20 bucks, would I still own it at 38,000 or 37,000, wherever it is right now? I have no idea, because I didn't do it, right? And there's a lot of other speculative investments that I didn't make that I could have made a lot of money on. Fortunately, there are a lot of them that I did make. I mean, I've made money in other things, and I've done well on other investments. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin would have been the best investment I ever made had I bought it at $10 and sold it at 69,000 at the high, sure. Or even if I sold it today and bought it at $10. But I didn't do that. But what's going to happen to other people, what they're going to regret is not selling, because that's one regret I'm never going to have. But a lot of people are going to watch their paper fortunes completely evaporate. People are going to go from millionaires to nothing, and people are going to have a lot of regrets over the paper profits that they never realized.
Can I talk? Am I in the video when I talk? Do I show when I'm talking?
No, it was my question.
Oh no, but I never see myself on this feed.
Oh,
I don't know if they're switched.
no,
Do you guys never switch to my camera or what?
You are showing Richard.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Can you
So,
bring the mic closer?
It's going to clip more if I bring it closer, bro. I'll try and talk quieter. I'm clipping it by talking too loud. So first of all, Peter describes a problem that people do have in cryptocurrency where they sell on a 1x or a 2x or a 3x and think that they're smart. And then it goes up 69 million X. So you could have bought Hex on January 5th of 2019 and sold it when it doubled, 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 when it doubled again, when it doubled, when it doubled, when it doubled, when it doubled, or when it doubled. It doubled 13 times in 2 years. And so you could have hopped off the magic carpet ride at any time that you wanted with insanely mad gains, and you could have been one of those red candles everybody hates so much. And people run into this problem when they reach cryptocurrency, they're not used to seeing millions of percent returns. Hex did 1,000,000% return from the bottom of the top, 623 days. And that's without staking. If you'd staked, you would have made 2x if you'd staked longer. You would have made less if you staked for shorter. He describes a problem where he wouldn't have known whether he would have held or not. And Hex specifically stops him from his own weak hands selling his future gains. And this happens to investors time and time again, where they try and time the market only to discover that what matters more is not timing the market, but time in the market. Time in the market with markets that have product market fit, they're on-ramping new users, they have a durable walled garden. Peter seems to think that you can copy paste a coin and instantly it's valuable. It's not true. When you copy paste a coin, you have a different ticker symbol, which means you have a different order book, which means you have different liquidity, which means you have different exchanges that it's traded on. The things that affect the price are wildly different. Now look, whether you like Hex or not, fine. I'm also solving a lot of other problems. I don't like how electricity is destroying the environment. I used to mine Bitcoin. I used a lot of electricity to do it. It wasn't renewable energy. I think Bitcoin destroys the environment. I think gold destroys the environment. I think Ethereum destroys the environment. And I've already solved that. PulseChain.com gets rid of all the proof of work destroying the environment to maintain a consensus network and just uses proof of stake. The same way that Hex doesn't require you to destroy the environment to earn inflation rewards. It just requires you to delay gratification to earn inflation rewards. So we have less negative externalities, which is why we have a superior price chart. This is gold versus Bitcoin. Gold goes up, or gold goes up a little bit, Bitcoin goes up a lot. This is Hex. It just basically looks like a giant up and to the right. You got to click log for it to make sense, or it just compresses everything into a flat line here, which is useless to reason about. A flat line isn't helpful in a chart. Now look at from launch. He wished that he had got in early on Bitcoin and Ethereum because he would have made hundreds of thousands of percent returns. This is Hex versus Bitcoin and Ethereum from their launch. This is the hardest possible time to try and compete with those currencies. This is when they had the maximum appreciation, the maximum up and to the right. We're beating both of them today after a 66% or 70% dip. When you zoom in, it looks like this. This is on a log scale. These are really big numbers. And so, you know, we're up versus Bitcoin at the top, 500x. That's 500, or it's 532,000% versus Bitcoin at the top. Now we've dipped. We're only up 150x now, 1500x. That's why I bring charts, right? We did the same thing versus Ethereum, but Ethereum pumped harder than Bitcoin, 3 times harder. So our gains versus Ethereum are about 3 times less. I have to hide my eyes from the camera. And then this is us versus the dollar, about 1,000,000% versus the dollar. Now he's going to tell you these numbers aren't real, but guess what? They are real. When you create those red candles that everybody hates, that's you cashing out. And then you could go buy whatever Peter does like. He likes stocks that you don't own the shares to. By the way, as far as the utility and stocks go, you realize that if you get a 40% share of your local Burger King, you can't change the prices. You can't change the hours of operation. You can't add an item to the menu, and you can't pull cash out of the register. And so this concept that somehow owning shares in a company is somewhere more wholesome or better than owning part of a cryptocurrency, which may give you rights to control the consensus of the network, which may issue you trustless dividends with no middlemen whatsoever, And so I created something that solves a lot of problems that Peter hates. Peter likes self-custody. I solved it. Peter likes yield. I solved it. Peter likes delayed gratification. I solved it. But he just doesn't realize I've solved the things that he cares about. So I'm making people literal millionaires. And he says other things which aren't the case, such as some people have to lose in order for other people to win. It's not true. It's 100% not true. When your house goes up in value, who loses? When your gold goes up in value, who loses? When a baby is born or a tree grows, who loses? They're created out of thin air. Trees are created out of thin air.
All right, you've raised so many things that I got to talk about. I mean, first of all right, when I buy a house, I'm buying a place to live. It's not about winning or losing. I get to use the house. I get to live in the house. It's a place of shelter. I can raise my family. And so, the price is going to be what the price is, but the value of the home is the utility as a place to live. When someone buys gold, whether they bought it at a higher price or a lower price, people buy gold and they use gold, right? There's a use for it. When you're talking about something like Bitcoin or Hex, you don't do anything with it. The person who owns Hex doesn't get any enjoyment out of the Hex while they own it. It doesn't throw off any income. It doesn't pay dividends. It doesn't pay rent. You can't turn it into a watch and wear it. All you can do is hold on to it. And so the only reason somebody would buy something like Hex is because they think the price is going to go up. There's no other reason to buy it other than the fact that you think the price will go up. And the only way the price is going to go up is if someone comes around and pays a higher price. And why is that person going to pay a higher price? Because he is of the same opinion. He believes that there'll be somebody else to pay a higher price. But that doesn't work. That dynamic, that pyramid Ponzi chain letter dynamic does not work. It has never worked. I don't care if you put a chain letter on a blockchain. It doesn't make it work any better. And you can go backwards and you can say, yes, look at all the money people have made in Hex. Yeah, this is money on paper. Most of the money has never been realized. It's just still sitting there. And what you do is you keep inflating the supply of Hex, creating new Hex out of thin air, which costs nothing, and then you give all the people additional Hex. You don't give them additional money. They're not earning interest the way a CD because you're not making loans and earning anything. You're just creating more Hex. I agree with you. I don't like the whole concept of proof of work for Bitcoin. It is a waste of resources, a waste of energy. It's like digging holes and filling them back up again and claiming, well, I worked. Yes, you worked, but you produced nothing. What's important is not that you worked, but what you produce. When you mine an ounce of gold, the world actually has an ounce of gold that it can use for something. Gold is a very useful metal. And when you mine gold, you are helping the world because you're giving the world a metal in a form that it can be used. When it's still buried beneath the Earth's surface, mankind has no access to that gold. But once you bring it out and you refine it and you have it in a way that you can add it to those mirrors. We just launched the biggest telescope into space, and they were able to coat the mirrors with gold so that they would work a lot better. Gold has a lot of value, and it's worth the resources that we expend to get it out of the ground. And you're talking about stocks and say, oh, there's no difference between owning a stock and owning Hex. When I own a company, I own a piece of a business that I like, and I'm entitled to my share of the profits of that business. Now, I agree in this casino of a stock market that the central banks have created, you have a lot of people that are not buying stocks for the same reason I'm buying them. They're just buying them because the price is going up, and they think the price will keep going up, and they ignore the fundamentals. They ignore the losses. They ignore all the things that I pay attention to because I'm looking for value. I'm not just buying hype. I'm not just buying momentum. And in case you haven't noticed, that bubble has popped. The momentum has left all these stocks. They are imploding every day. And the same thing is happening with cryptocurrencies. I think what you're going to see in the world of crypto is people selling their fool's gold and going into real gold, which is why the price of gold keeps going up as Bitcoin and other currencies keep going down. There's now actually a negative correlation between Bitcoin and gold. In fact, you can tell what gold is doing on any given day by looking at Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is up, gold is down. If Bitcoin is down, gold is up. That's how it's trading. So it's clearly not digital gold when it's the mirror image of gold. It's fool's gold. It's anti-gold. And the people who think they're holding digital gold are going to wake up and realize they've got nothing.
Yeah, so
Gentlemen,
people...
I will go. I'll go to the next question.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that. And listen, just from a technology side, there's a bit of a sound issue. Peter, can you turn your sound down a little bit? Can you ask your
Am I too loud, or should I lower my mic?
It's a bit too loud and it's interfering on either side. And on the other side, Richard, is your volume able to come up a little?
Sure, but I am already clipping, so
He seems pretty loud to me.
Yeah,
I hear him.
I am clipping, so I don't think you actually want me to be any
Okay.
louder.
Just Peter down a little bit. Richard's good.
Okay.
That's
All right.
technical people are saying. Okay.
So
I've got
good.
a very, very important question for you, Richard.
Mhm.
I want you to listen to this very, very carefully.
hmm
HEX has been called the fastest growing asset ever, but also been called the greatest con of all time. Richard, you have a lot of loyal evangelists, but you also have a lot of detractors and people calling you the biggest scammer of the century, running the largest pyramid Ponzi scheme in history. How can we believe you're not the greatest scam artist to ever live? And I want to add one other thing. Richard, I'm an old financial planner. And I've sat around the family kitchen table with the mum and dad in the suburbs of Sydney after there's been a market downturn. And I've seen the wife cry. I've seen the fear in the husband's eyes when they've had their superannuation wiped out. I've seen the darkness and I've seen the pain. Richard, do you understand the responsibility you have to people around the world with what you're putting together?
Yeah, what you just described is called a security, and that's a regulated activity. So when you put your money into a common pool with the expectation of profit solely from the work of others, or there's critical entrepreneurial or managerial effort, you have a regulated activity. That's called a security. HEX is the opposite of that. If I die right now and hex.com goes offline right now, it doesn't affect anybody. You mint your own rewards using your own labor, your own effort, very similar to what a Bitcoin miner does, except instead of destroying the environment, you just delay gratification and wait a little while. You mint your own rewards in HEX. No one else gives them to you. So I don't do any work for you, none whatsoever, which is why you don't see me doing the things that other cryptocurrency founders do, talking about fake partnerships, like they shop for their employees at McDonald's and then they say, we're partnered with McDonald's. No, you're not. You're scamming. Or they say, oh, we're going to add these features, Litecoin's like, oh, we're going to add confidential transactions. Never happened. Scam. And then you go look at the wallets. Vitalik sells Ethereum. Chainlink sells Chainlink. Charlie Lee Litecoin sells the top, right? Makes the top. Both Vitalik and Charlie have sold the top on their respective coins. But then you look at the HEX market and you analyze all of those coins that were tied to the origin address, and they've never been sold on market, never. And so everything that we do in HEX is better. We have a 100% uptime. Does your bank have 100% uptime? No, it doesn't. Does Visa and MasterCard have 100% uptime? No, they don't. And cryptocurrencies obviously have value because they replace payment networks like PayPal, Visa, MasterCard that you are slave to, that if they don't allow you to transact, you have no more freedoms. The freedom of transaction is the basis for all other freedoms. You don't have freedom of speech if you can't drive to where the speech is happening. You don't have freedom of assembly if you can't drive to where the assembly is happening. You don't have freedom of movement if you can't pay for them to print your passport, which is getting more and more expensive. If you don't have the freedom to transact, which less and less people every year, all of us are nearly banned at every moment. You say the wrong thing on social, you're banned. You say the wrong thing in Canada, they come to your house and knock on your door and beat you up about it. And by the way, in Canada, did you know that if you try and buy gold, you have to pay GST? And there's only a very, very, very minute subset of gold, which is finer than 99.5% pure, which is exempted from that VAT or GST that you call it. But when you buy cryptocurrency, does the government beat you up for 20% on the in? No, they don't. No, they don't. Because cryptocurrency is a superior product. And HEX monetizes time. Pulse Chain removes all the destruction of the environment as the world's largest free airdrop. A lot of people forget HEX was given away for free. If you had Bitcoin, you were given HEX for free. And at the top, it would have increased the value of your Bitcoin by 20%. 20% free extra Bitcoin. And Bitcoin ran up 15x from the COVID dip. Ethereum ran up 50x from the COVID dip. HEX ran up hundreds of X. We're outperforming everything. And that's just one of my products. You know, the HEX chat room's only got 40,000 people in it. Pulse Chain's got 65,000 people in it. Over $1 billion has been sacrificed to support freedom of movement and freedom of speech. And we just do absolutely everything better. And at some point, people have to realize it and recognize it. I have invented solutions to things Peter cares about: self-sovereignty, removing middlemen, efficiency, getting rid of environmental destruction, giving people yield, getting people to delay gratification, putting people in charge of their own finances where no one can stop you from paying yourself your own rewards. I have solved all these things.
Richard, you solved the problem of how to make yourself richer, but you haven't solved any of the problems that I'm concerned about. And I agree. You're defending yourself by stating that based on the Howey test, hexes are not a security, and I agree with you. I don't think you're selling unregistered securities, but what you are selling is a pipe dream. What happened was you gave away a bunch of free hex, but the majority of the supply of hex were retained by you. And what your goal was to get the price of hex to go up so that other people would buy the hex that you want to sell. And you've done a good job of promoting the coins that you want to unload. It's basically a pump and dump. You want to pump up the price of hex so that you can sell. But of course, you don't want competition. You don't want all the people who got free hexes to sell theirs. So you convince them not to sell by promising even more hex if they wait. Well, while they're waiting, you're selling. And eventually they're going to get left holding a bag of worthless hex because the supply is going to keep on growing and they're going to keep on holding and hoping. And one day people are going to want their money or they're going to need their money and they're going to try to sell. And all the paper gains are going to evaporate. And the only people who would have made money were those who didn't wait, those who cashed out earlier. And that was the point I made earlier.
I wanted to agree. Like I used to feel the same way Peter does. I really did. I was a Bitcoin maximalist. I was like, you know what? There's going to be, everyone's going to fall into one thing. And then reality proved me wrong and I had to change and update my worldview. In fact, the more altcoins there are, the more useful, fun things there are to do with your Bitcoin, then it just stays in the ecosystem. So like when you go to a casino, they never show you the clock because they want you to stay and keep playing. And so designing systems which accrue value for shareholders is very similar to designing an economy or to designing a cryptocurrency. And yes, I appreciate your compliments that I've designed something that is extremely sticky, that gets people to delay gratification, that gives people hopes about the future, which is why I have seen people whose lives have been saved by hex that I couldn't save with my self-help books. I give away self-help.
Well, how many hex have you sold personally?
If you look publicly, it looks like 0, but I can't tell you because Howey test, right?
So
but if you do chain analysis and you follow the OA wallet, it appears to have never sold anything. But who's the OA wallet? Nobody knows.
You've never sold any hex and taken any cash? You just have all the hex.
Let's go over the rumors. Let's go over the rumors. You used to be able to transform. I'm answering your question with more words if you relax. When hex launched, you used to be able to turn Ethereum into hex directly in the contract. There's a rumor that there was like 1 million Ethereum generated. There's also a rumor that I got all that Ethereum. There's also a rumor, which I can agree with this one, that I've been mining Bitcoin or was a Bitcoin miner back when it was 50 cents and mined full 50 Bitcoin block rewards more than once a day by myself with no pool because that's how easy it was back then. I've also been a retired multimillionaire for about 20 years now, having a 150 employee marketing company in the United States where we sold mortgages, miracle cleaners, sex toys, cash advance loans, you name it. So I've been retired for
my question.
Well, your question is, have I ever sold? And what I'm telling you is, if you look at all the coins that were associated with some type of founder thing, none of them were sold. So I'm answering you the question as close as I can to getting. I can't tell you about my finances because Howey test. I can't tell you about my finances because expectation of value based on what I do. No, if you think the value is going to go up or down based on what I do, it's an expectation. I don't give people expectations.
The Howey test has to do with work effort that you are expending on your part. If you simply tell people how many of your own, but
yes, giving people assumptions about your future behavior is forward-looking statement is fucking bog standard
I'm not asking you what you're going to do in the future. I'm just saying, have you sold any of the hex that you created and gotten cash for it or some other cryptocurrency? It's just a yes or no question. You're not violating the Howey rule by telling me.
So you think the price went up 1,000,000% because I was dumping my bags? That's what you think? Because you also said the opposite of that. You said that I wanted the price to go up. So you say opposite things.
So you can sell. You want the price to go up so you can
Why would I sell the world's best? Why would I sell the world's best performing asset when I own other crap I could sell?
So you can do something with it. You can't do anything with hex. Obviously,
I just raised $27 million for charity. Why? Because I have a
Good for
wonderful
you.
reputation.
But the people who are putting their money into Hex intend to sell one day.
Good.
They want to buy
Great.
something. They
Yes.
want to buy a house. They
Do
want to
it.
buy a car.
Be the red candle.
They
Go
have
ahead.
to do it. But you're
Have
telling
fun.
me you haven't sold any. You don't want you have you just have all your Hex.
I've been retired for 20 years, bro. This for me isn't about the numbers. It's about doing more. I want to change the world. I want to make the world a better place. I don't want people to buy the fake stock market
by conning them into buying
because
Hex.
you're the guy that's been wrong for 20 years. You've been wrong
I haven't
20
been wrong.
years consistently.
No, I haven't. I've been right. I've been right a lot. I've been pretty right over that time period.
We can
Yeah,
compare
have I gotten
balance
everything
sheets.
right?
I
Have I
retired
gotten all
20
my
years ago. You're still breaking your balls. Okay. I have more money than
Wow.
you. I've been a success. I've been a larger success than you for longer
If you
than
don't count
by
your
accident.
Hex, I don't know if you have more money than me or not. I'm not counting the value of your Hex.
Let me know when you raise 27 million for charity. Listen, you don't even understand how Hex works. Hex is virtual lending, but you don't understand that it's virtual lending.
No, there's no lending. Who
Yes,
are you
there
lending
is.
to?
Listen, when you lock up your coins, do you think that value just disappears? No. That value is transmitted to the only people that can harvest it, which are the people that aren't staked. And the people that aren't staked get diluted a form of payment, a form of interest, which is paid to the people that are staked. Correct. That's right. The only people.
You're just transferring. It's a transfer.
That's correct. That's what lending is.
You're
correct.
Transferring it.
Yes. That's what lending is.
There's no real value being created. You're
yes,
just
there is.
transferring it around among the various people who own it.
Why don't you understand that your virtual concept of value in your head is not as real as the price that you can sell things for?
No,
the price chart is real. Your fantasy is not real. You think things that have a great price chart.
Price and value.
That's right. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get.
You pay a price, but you get no value. There is no value in Hex. There's no value in Bitcoin.
Peter, what's guys
price because there's somebody willing to buy it, sure. But that price might not exist tomorrow when people no longer want to gamble, when the illusion wears off.
I called the top on the day. I called the Bitcoin top on the day, and I've done this 2 cycles in a row. While everyone else is telling you about $100,000 Bitcoin, $1 million Bitcoin, I'm telling you that this is the top, and I publish the chart. And I've done that 2 cycles in a row. You call the top every single day because you're a noob speculator that doesn't know about technical analysis, that doesn't know about fundamental analysis, that's never minded Bitcoin, that's not as successful in business as me. You're a noob.
So
you are a noob.
Where's the next low then for Bitcoin?
Traditionally, Bitcoin drops 85% after a parabolic blow off top. This cycle was different because the government, it should go down to about 11K. So since it was,
that's a reasonable expectation.
Agree. Yes, because it's what it has been doing for decades. It always drops 85%.
What's going to happen to Hex?
Hex continues to have giant dips like it always has, but it also makes new all-time highs. You got to understand that an 80% dip only cancels out a 5x pump. And when you have a 1,000,000% pump, you would have to drop 99999999999% to cancel it out. And
just because Bitcoin or Hex has come back from a previous crash doesn't mean it's going to come back from every crash. Because one crash may be the final crash.
No. There's scientific laws to describe
So you're saying that so Hex is guaranteed to go up?
No, it goes up and down all the time. It just tends to go up more than down. It's dropped 75% like 5 or 6 times.
But it could drop 95% or 99%
absolutely.
or 100%,
yes.
can't it? And it may never
Hex
come
could
back,
literally, it's unlikely that last part. The last part's unlikely.
Well, yeah. See, what are the odds? I mean, I think it's more likely than not.
I mean, look at you have to. Well, I'll tell you. There's a coin that was literally made as a joke in an afternoon that is inferior technology called Dogecoin. Dogecoin is a copy of Litecoin, and Litecoin is a copy of Bitcoin. And basically, the difference between Litecoin and Dogecoin is they changed the logo and they made it inflate more. And it's actually, they don't even have their own miners. They're merge mined with Litecoin, and Litecoin's trash on its own. So it's a copy of trash. And I don't even like Bitcoin that much. You know, people say Bitcoin's never been hacked. Yes, it has. The network was forked once. Somebody printed 6 billion extra coins. There was another hack that could have been executed 2 years ago where anyone could have minted as many free Bitcoin as they wanted, but the developer responsibly disclosed it instead of just minting all the free Bitcoin. I tell people the truth about the prices, that every cryptocurrency drops 85% more often than people wished, except for stable coins, and they have huge counterparty tail end risk. I'm very honest about the price risk. I'm very honest about what these things can and can't do. Bitcoin's trash technology. It has very low throughput. You could never do all the transactions of the world on it. It has a very conservative roadmap. They almost never improve it. The price performance is garbage. I mean, from the COVID dip, Ethereum outperformed Bitcoin by threefold, and Hex outperformed it by
So
hundredfold.
with all those flaws, why do you maintain it's better than gold?
Well, because the price chart of gold sucks. And the problem with gold is
you're just looking at a 40-year price chart. So you
I'm only 40 years old, bro. How far back should I go?
Well, if you were my
100?
age, you could go further back and see gold. When I was born, gold was $35 an ounce, and now it's $1,910.
Listen, you can't keep flip flopping. You're flip flopping. You're flip flopping. You can't start the conversation by saying I don't suggest anyone invest in it, and then come hard later and act like you're the hero.
No. I'm not. Gold is a better store of value than fiat currency. And so if you want to save, I recommend saving in gold. There's a difference between saving and investing.
Could you pick a weaker opponent than fiat? That's the weakest comparison imaginable. Like everything's better than fiat.
Well, that's what gold.
Used cars are up 40%. Used cars are up 40%. My Rolex is up 3x.
To me, I think gold is actually pretty cheap right now, which is why I have about. Well, that may be the case. I mean, platinum is normally higher than gold. Platinum, I agree. Platinum looks pretty cheap.
There's stuff we agree on, Peter. There is.
I think gold is so low right now that, in my personal portfolio, about half of what I own is in gold and silver mining stocks. So I have made a big personal bet. I think gold is so cheap right now, I'm investing in the companies that own it and mine it. And I do think that a mining company that owns gold and mines it and pays a dividend, that is an investment. Now, over time, gold mining companies are not the greatest investments to hold for a lifetime. But if you think there's going to be a big bull market in gold, which I do, I think over the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to have some spectacular returns in gold mining stocks. And so I have a much bigger allocation there than I do to the physical metal, which I just regard as savings. And then my other allocations, I have overweighted other hedge areas. I have my second biggest allocation is to the energy sector. So I have a lot of money in that sector because I'm particularly concerned about inflation and about what that does to the value of fiat currencies and the impact that has on commodities, all commodities, not just gold. And so I want to own companies that are positioned to benefit from a huge bull market in commodities.
I mean, I agree with much of what you said there. I think inflation's terrible.
I think we should just change gear a little bit. And
Good.
I want to apologize to everybody. The sound quality is not great at Richard's end.
Is it too quiet? Because I'm maxed out clipping.
Is it? I do apologize.
I'm going to turn my mic down.
No, he said it's on my end. I don't.
I mean, I see red bars. I know what clipping looks like. So
I can move my lapel mic lower on my lapel. Does that help?
It helps.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you. Maybe.
I mean, I'm not clipping now. Am I good now, guys?
Okay, Richard's good. A little bit of a challenge with Peter, but thank you for moving it down. I asked both of you to submit a question to the other person. And so here is that question that you both asked each other. And first of all, it's Richard's special question to Peter. Mm-hmm. Peter, have you ever thought about how much money you've cost people that followed your advice over the years? Or the kids that didn't get to go to college? Or the bills, medical bills that were not paid? And the loss of lifestyle because of your bad advice?
Well, I don't think I've been giving bad advice over the last 20 years. So the answer to that question is no, I haven't thought about that. Over the course of 20 years, have there been individual investments that I've recommended that didn't work out? Of course, there have been. And there have been that have worked out spectacularly well. Over 20 years ago, what was I investing in? I was investing in, energy stocks when oil was under $20 a barrel before it ran up to 150. I had a lot of gold stocks when gold was under 300 and, went up to, 1900 by 2011. I had big positions in emerging markets. I avoided the entire .com collapse. I spent most of the late 1990s convincing people to sell their .com stocks. And I built my initial brokerage business based on getting people to get out of the .com bubble. I saved people a fortune. You should see some of the letters I got from clients who would have been wiped out, but I got them out of the stock market before it crashed, and I got them in to foreign markets. I got people out of the US dollar when the dollar index was about 120, and then it went down to 70. And, we had a tremendous, remember, for the first decade of this century, 2000 to 2010, it was a lost decade in the US stock market. And so we were able to make a lot of money by avoiding US market. And in the middle of that, I helped set up a hedge fund to short the subprime market in 2006 that paid off, more than tenfold in 2007. Not that many advisors were shrewd enough back then to understand the problems in the mortgage market and to position people short subprime. So I've done a lot of things that have been right. What I got wrong was the decade from 2011 to really 2021. I had assumed when I was forecasting the 2008 financial crisis and warning about the housing bubble, I thought that after all my forecasts came true, that we would see a drop in the US dollar. And so I built stock portfolios that were based on a weak dollar. And we didn't get a weak dollar. We got a strong dollar. I knew that the Federal Reserve was going to try to reflate the bubbles that popped in stocks and real estate. What I didn't know is that they would succeed. I thought the world would see through what they were doing, that it would see QE for what it was, debt monetization, and we'd have a dollar crisis. Now, I still believe I'm going to be right. And in fact, my investment strategy, which didn't do very well from 2013 through the end of 2015, has outperformed dramatically since the end of 2015. So from 2016 to today, I've done much better than any of my benchmarks, and I've beaten them by very, very wide margins. But I think my clients and myself are very well positioned now for the ultimate dollar collapse that I did prepare people for, albeit a decade too early, but we are well positioned and we've had good gains over that decade. Could we have made more money if we were just in, some NASDAQ stocks? Well, up until a month ago, yeah. Now I'd have to check again because we've had some huge declines recently. But I do believe that ultimately, the people who have followed my investment advice over the years, no matter what time frame they picked, even if they happen to adopt my advice at the most inopportune of times, because a lot of it depends on when you start getting into foreign stocks and when you start getting into the gold stocks. You can get into different times. But I think ultimately it's not going to matter when you got in. I think the people that follow my advice will be in much better shape financially than the people who ignore my advice. Sure, would people have made more money had they just bought Bitcoin 10 years ago? And sure, of course. I mean, it's obvious that's the case. But most people didn't do that. Most people who bought Bitcoin 10 years ago only put in a small amount of money because they recognized that it was a gamble. They only put in more money recently after the price went way up. And so a lot of those people are now down overall on their Bitcoin. Even though they have profits on what they bought originally, they have bigger losses on what they bought more recently because they put larger sums of money. And ultimately, I think people who follow my advice on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are going to be much better off than the people who ignored it because the losses are going to be staggering in crypto. People are going to lose a tremendous amount of money. Most people are not only going to lose their paper profits, but they're going to lose what they originally started with. They're going to lose their principal. The only people who are going to end up making money in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are the people who sold. And then, of course, they're going to have to defend what they got away with in court because just like when Bernie Madoff blew up, all the people who lost money were looking to claw back money from the people who gained. And I think the same thing is going to happen. Not that I necessarily agree with it or not, but I know how the world operates. And there's going to be a lot of people pointing fingers. And unfortunately, after the horses leave the barn's door, after the horses leave the barn, the government's going to try to close it. I think a lot of regulations are going to come, unnecessary regulations in the legitimate part of the financial industry, because so many people are going to lose so much money in crypto. It's going to give capitalism another black eye that capitalism doesn't need. And it's going to allow the government to say, you see, look what happens with capitalism. People get conned, people lose all their money, and they're going to say the solution is more government, which of course is not. That is simply going to make the situation worse.
Peter, you're still going to stand by the fact that you were stating very publicly that crypto, Bitcoin, will go to zero. Are you standing by that?
Well, I've been saying that for a long time. Eventually, sure, it's going to go to zero. It may take a while to get to zero, but there's not going to be much of a difference if Bitcoin goes to 100 than zero. If you bought it at 40 or 50,000, if it gets anywhere near zero, it's going to feel like zero.
So
Richard,
guys,
did you want to
I mean, it's very
respond to
simple.
that?
Peter has a lot of parade of imaginary horribles. Everything's going to go wrong. You could listen to Peter, or you could just look at the chart. Does this look like everyone lost their money? There's dips. Those are people taking profits. Those are guys getting cashed out. Those are guys getting rich and buying yachts and golf courses and jets and Ferraris and Lamborghinis and you name it. That's what those dips are. And these are big dips, guys. These are 60 and 70% dips hiding in here. But 60 and 70% dips don't matter when you overcome them with 500 and 600% gains. Cryptocurrency is a world of free money. Free money. As a Bitcoin holder, you got Hex for free. When I mined Bitcoin, it was free. I double-clicked an EXE on my computer. As a Hex holder, our community received free Uniswap token, free 1-inch token, because we use these products and we were just given the coins for free. We received free Git coins. We received tons of free coins out the yin yang, literally free money. And here's what's weird about crypto and about me as a person. If you see a guy drowned in jewelry and covered with all this spectacle, your brain would be right to say scammer. When you see charts of 1,000,000% returns in 2 years, you're right to think, oh, it's got to be a scam. And you'd be 99.9% right. It would save you a lot of money and a lot of horror, and it would save you a lot of pyramid schemes and a lot of scams and a lot of Ponzi's. It would save you all that. But you would also miss that one rare little sliver of world change that actually happened. Amazon dropped 95% in the year 2000, 95%. You could have pointed at it and said, look, late stage capitalism, Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme, greater fool. What can you do with these shares anyway? You can't do anything. You can't affect the company. You're just hoping to sell to the greater fool, which is all the shares, by the way. And guess what? They're over half of all the commerce in the United States on the internet now. Over half of all the money made on the internet goes directly into Amazon's pockets, even though it dropped 95%. And so this new paradigm of massive drops with massive gains is what the future looks like, particularly when the money is more and more fake. The reason all these charts are so easy to get to go up and right is because they're priced in the dollar, and the dollar just gets worth less every day. The dollar is mostly garbage. You only occasionally see it go up in value right when the stock market crashes. And the stock market used to crash every 10 years, but they decided to skip a cycle and just print their way out of it. So I've created something that is one of the few things in the world that can change man's relationship to government. You don't have to beg the government to give you their fake inflated money. You can use your own money that's peer-to-peer. You can trust math instead of men.
Yeah, you could use your fake inflated money instead. But you know, you gave
like you
away
can't read
a
a
lot
chart.
of coins for free. Right.
Why don't you make a crypto then, bro? And see how it
the
does.
chart's not over. Wait
Go
till
make
it
a crypto.
because I don't want to scam people.
Right.
I don't want to take advantage of people.
That's why you don't have any
I don't
gold
wanna make
prices on your
money
gold
at their
website.
expense.
So let me ask you a question. Since you're such a nice guy, why
But
not go to your
let me
website?
finish.
You don't put any
you can ask
prices.
me a question in a second. Let me just ask you this, or I want to make this point. You gave away a lot of free Hex.
Yes.
But the reason that anybody made money in Hex is because somebody came and
Yes.
bought it.
Yep.
There are people going into the market buying Hex with actual money or fiat currency, whatever they're using, Ether, whatever it is. And the only reason some people who got free Hex were able to sell any and buy a yacht or a mansion is because some other fool bought that Hex from them. That's the person who's going to lose money. They put real money into your fake coins and they're going to lose because that person thinks he's going to sell his at a higher price at some distant point in the future. But the reality is he's never going to sell them. They're not going to be worth anything because nobody's going to want to buy them.
Says the guy that's always been wrong about it. The chart doesn't lie, bro. The math is real. You can, if you don't like crypto, sell it for gold.
I'm not saying that Hex hasn't gone up from the day you created it until right now.
So we've got like 100,000 stakers. You don't think we're gonna have 200,000?
See what that chart looks like 10 years from now. Let's see what it looks like. You know, I mean,
wait till all the opportunities gone.
You know,
there you go. That's a good investment strategy. Great speculation.
Yeah, you could have shown me a chart of Beanie Babies at the peak. You could have shown me a chart of tulips if we were in Holland and said, "Look, tulips never go down. Look at this chart."
Did those bubbles come back? Right? Did those bubbles come back? Did those bubbles come back?
No, it didn't come back. And the crypto bubble's not going to come back either.
It's come back 10 times.
Gentlemen,
it's never going back.
No, it never went away. It just had big peaks and troughs.
We're running out of time, and I want to get this last question in. Peter's special question to Richard. Richard, how can any non-backed cryptocurrency be a long-term store of value if it has no underlying value to store? How are any cryptocurrencies really scarce when there are already almost 18,000 different coins to choose from and the supply grows every day?
Right. See, this is what people get so backwards. People think that inflation is always bad. It's not true. Bitcoin's greatest gains were when it inflated the most. As the inflation of Bitcoin has gone down, the gains have gone down. And so what matters isn't just looking at the demand side. You have to look at the supply side and the demand side both. And so when you look at altcoins, as a maximalist, Bitcoin maximalist, old one, I would say, God, all these altcoins, they're going to destroy Bitcoin. But then in fact, the altcoins and the Bitcoin went up and down together. And the more altcoins that existed, the more valuable Bitcoin began, because they're not replacement products, they're complementary products. They amplify each other's utility in many cases. And so history shows and proves, by the way, as you add more stocks to the stock market, has the value of stocks gone down? Look at how many stocks you can create. It's going to drive all the other stocks down. It's the dumbest logic I've ever heard of. Here's other things, right?
They're different companies.
That's
with
right.
Different
That's
businesses,
right. That's
different
right.
revenue sources.
That's right.
No,
Agree.
but all these cryptocurrencies are the same. They're competing
Wrong.
for the same market share.
Wrong.
Yes.
Wrong.
Yes,
Wrong.
They are.
No, you're 100% wrong. Bitcoin doesn't have stable coins. Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts. Bitcoin doesn't have NFTs. Bitcoin doesn't have options. Bitcoin doesn't have leverage trading. Bitcoin doesn't have the ability to log into other websites. Bitcoin doesn't have play to earn games. Bitcoin doesn't have anything, which is why Ethereum outperformed it 3-1, and why I'm making a copy of Ethereum where you get all of your
But
coins copied for free.
How many other coins can do what Ethereum does?
And the value will keep going up because you think they're replacement products and they're not. As more stocks and more companies were added to the exchange, all of their values went up.
As you said yourself,
as more cryptos were invented, Bitcoin went up.
They started
Dogecoin beat Bitcoin, by the way.
Dogecoin is a joke, and look what it did.
And look what it did. It beat
matter.
Bitcoin. It beat Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Dogecoin
that
started as a
just shows you
joke
how
and it beat
ridiculous
Bitcoin.
It is.
That's right.
No,
and that's
'cause
why
it's
you
all
have
a
to
joke.
learn.
That's
That's
the
why you have to
joke.
learn from the market.
There's no serious coin. The joke is on the people who are owning these things, who are hodling these things.
The joke
They're
is
gonna
the
wake
dollar.
up to a stark reality.
The joke is the dollar. The joke is stocks. The
dollar
joke is your
flawed.
bank. They're all. It's everything's a joke now. Do you want to play the jokes that make you money, or that you can complain about all day while everyone outperforms you? Everyone's outperformed you. Coins started as a joke, outperformed you. Stop crying and join us. Yes, they have.
No. Most people who bought Bitcoin are losing money.
Elon Musk owns more in Dogecoin than your entire net worth. Please be quiet. Elon Musk also owns, the richest guy in the world, also owns more in Bitcoin than you own. You're not smarter than Elon Musk. He's smarter than you.
I'm not claiming to be smarter than him. But you know what? He probably doesn't give a damn if Dogecoin goes to zero or Bitcoin goes to zero.
I wish that he would stop promoting Dogecoin because I feel it is inferior technology, whereas I have designed superior technology. Dogecoin is still proof of work. Why are you destroying the environment when you don't have to? Dogecoin's claim to fame was changing the logo.
There's no value to just waiting.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is.
You're waiting for nothing. No, there isn't. Nothing's happening.
Personal development.
The reason that there's value in savings is because you're delaying gratification and you're making your savings available to entrepreneurs who can invest it in capital formation and growing the economy.
Finally.
There is nothing that gains. When people sit there and hold on to their hex coins, there is no capital investment that finances. Nobody benefits because somebody is holding on to hex.
I've been waiting.
The people who sell.
Yeah. So Peter doesn't understand how banks work. Let me prove it to you real quick.
Sure, I do.
You ready?
Yes,
Peter, when you deposit your money at the bank, what happens to it?
Well, the banks. Well, I put my money in the bank. Now the bank can lever it up, and they can make maybe $10 worth of loans or $100 worth of loans for every
see, he's changed his answer. He's been doing some debate prep. You're not giving the same answer you usually give.
I didn't change my answer.
No, your usual answer is that they lend it out and then you make interest on it. That's your usual answer.
They lend out a lot more than you deposit. We have a fractional reserve system.
That's right. So what's funny is Peter must have prepared for this debate because usually he says gold's useful in times of strife like war. We didn't hear that argument, which I'm ready to crush immediately. He usually says that when you give your money to the bank, they lend it out, and that's the reason you make interest. But now he's saying they lever it up. He's changed that answer, which is smart because it's true.
They lend it out, they can pay you interest. That's where the interest comes from.
No, where the interest comes from is inflation. So your money never gets lent out. Your money stays at the bank. You give your money to your bank keeps your money, and it sits there, and it never gets lent out. And instead, what they lent out is inflation that the government gives them for free because you met their virtual fantasy rule of some reserve that they change whenever they want.
Yes, you provide the reserve, and then they can lever it up. Yes, I am not a fan of the fractional reserve banking system. I've been a critic.
That's right. So we agree on this. Watch this. We're going to agree on this. The yield that you get from your bank is from the inflation that the government hands them. And so your yield at your bank account, which is pitifully low, is from inflation. And guess who else gets rewarded inflation? Bitcoin miners for destroying the environment, Ethereum miners for destroying the environment, which also luckily maintains a consensus network. And in Hex,
And that's why I
you
don't
get
keep a lot of
inflation.
money in my bank. I recognize that. I don't want inflation
go.
to rob the value. I'd rather own gold, but I'd also rather get good dividends on companies that I think are good investments.
So when your stocks go up in price, who are these greater fools buying your noob stocks that you don't even actually hold the shares to?
Well, I don't even have to sell the stocks. I just collect my dividends. I get my share of the profits.
And where do the
stocks I own
dividends
pay very
come
good
from?
dividends. From the earnings of the businesses. People buy their products.
Greater fools.
People use the services.
People buying music,
No,
you
they're
can
not
just download
fools.
it
They
for
need
free,
the
right?
products. So if
You
I
just download
own,
it for
if
free,
I
right?
own stock,
There's no value.
Let's say I own a chain of supermarkets, and so I make money selling people food. You're telling me the people who eat the food don't need it?
The
They don't
reason
want that food?
the reason people want food is because they don't want to feel hungry, and the reason people buy gold is because they want people to like them, and the reason people buy cryptocurrency
No, they buy gold
is because they want to have
food.
freedom.
Right. They buy food because they don't want to starve, and they buy gold so they can buy food in the
You
future.
can just starve. You
Because
don't have
you
to,
can't
to
store-
eat. You can just choose to starve.
You can't store your food. It's going to rot. But you can store your gold and use that to buy food in the future.
Gentlemen,
You could also store iridium and like every
gentlemen,
stainless
Well,
steel.
sure. It's,
time. I'm sorry to stop you. I was hoping you could punch out. It was very nice. Richard,
We should show our stuff. We should say where people go. He's going to tell you to go to his website and buy gold medals, and I'm going to tell you to go to my website and get fun stuff.
I don't think so.
I'll do it for him.
But listen, gentlemen, thank you. This has been a wonderful event. I loved it. I hope we can really do it again. You're both gentlemen. You're both tremendous in the way that you handle yourself. Congratulations to you both. It was a pleasure to work with you both. And I hope we can do it again. It was outstanding. So I'll let you both go. And thank you again. And goodbye from us now. We're just going to have a little bit of a chat afterwards.
If you're thinking about using Asana, you can easily sign up and start using it. It's that intuitive.
The following is a conversation with Vitalik Buterin, his second time on the podcast. Vitalik is the
And goodbye from us now. We're just going to have a little bit of a chat afterwards.